Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to another episode of Learn with Flo. We're going to be continuing on with our gut series. I've been diving into a lot of some of the functional medicine and also conventional medicine shortcomings of our standard thought process when it comes to overall gut health. So if you've been following along with our series, I really started back a few weeks ago talking about the number one symptom that I see in clinic, which is bloating, and how a lot of individuals kind of get into this tough little pattern of blaming food as a source of the bloat, when in reality, we know that elimination diets are not treating the source of the bloat, and sometimes they're actually making things worse. So we talked about bloating and exactly what that symptom is and some of the underlying reasons why individuals experience bloat. And then a lot of times individuals who do experience bloating go on to get diagnosed with IBS, right? Our classic catch-all, and I call it kind of a catch-all cop-out kind of diagnosis, because at first it makes us feel really good to have the diagnosis of something like IBS. It's like, yes, finally answers for what I've been experiencing. But then as we get further along, it's like, oh, this wasn't answers after all. This is just a description. This is just someone handing me a description of what I've been experiencing. And you're like, no, I could have written that description myself. But like, I want to know why. Like, why do I have IBS? What are those underlying reasons behind IBS? And so we really talked about what the drivers of IBS are and how it's just a collection and a description of your symptoms. But over 84% of people that have IBS are actually positive for something called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which really is just a fancy way of saying that bacteria is growing in the small intestine where bacteria shouldn't be. So it translocated there at some point in time for some reason, because guess what? Even SIBO isn't a root cause, because there's root causes to SIBO, right? And so I say all of this because we start to kind of identify pretty quickly some of the shortcomings of more of a conventional medicine model, or even where we felt like more conventional gastroenterology has maybe failed us in the past. But I don't think then that there's enough conversation then of where even people bravely stepping into the world of functional medicine are also getting burned. And so last week we really talked about the dreaded, what I call 5R protocol, which is a pretty cookie cutter template that you see used in a lot of people that claim, let's say that way, claim to be practicing more root cause or functional medicine. And so we really talked about how a lot of people in my world who come and see me in clinic, they've maybe been through that rigmarole before and they left actually feeling worse than they did previously. Or if nothing else, they just don't see any resolution and their symptoms like felt better initially and then it all comes rip roaring back. So the 5R protocol really isn't this magic pill that we really are sold or think it is. And so I just want people to really be able to kind of understand, feel seen, and feel related to if this has been your experience of like, man, I've kind of gone down the road of conventional medicine and felt burned there. I've gone down the road of functional medicine. I've kind of felt burned there. Trust that it's not your body. Your body is not broken. You have just not been handed the right user's manual for it, because no one has really helped you understand like the lowdown methods have of really how the body actually works. There is a strategic order of operations. This is not just a free-for-all. And if you're not eliciting that strategic order of operations or letting that work in your favor, especially when it comes to gut health, but also just in human physiology altogether, you're going to end up disappointed, right? So we have to make sure that we're understanding how the body works as a whole. And one of the other common buzzwords where we hear, I think, some of these shortcomings in functional medicine is this term called leaky gut. So naturally, if we've been talking about bloating and we've been talking about IBS and we've been talking about people kind of dipping their toes into functional medicine and feeling burned, you have probably heard the term leaky gut. It gets a little bit of a buzzword, especially in more of the wellness worlds right now. But what is leaky gut? A lot of people have suspicions. They're like, yeah, I think I have that. I think I have that leaky gut. And maybe you've tried a couple strategies or supplements that have been sold to you, but maybe not even seeing the needle move too much. So I really want to talk a lot today about this buzzword leaky gut because I think it's kind of getting also thrown under the functional medicine umbrella that's not necessarily being treated the way that I feel like it deserves to be treated, because leaky gut is a real thing, and it is something that impacts a lot of people. So as we kind of get into today, just recognize that a lot of what I'm talking about is really the result of bigger underlying dysfunction, right? A lot of times these terms, whether it's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, IBS, even like parasite cleanses, leaky gut, it's like we get into this wellness world, especially the wellness world that talks about gut health a lot, and we get sold or duped into thinking that these terms are the root cause. They're not the root cause, okay? These are terms used to describe really just the messenger. It's just a symptom. It's just the body communicating with us and saying like, hey, you're going to need to listen to this because I have something to say. And a lot of times then we misconstrue the symptoms as actually the root cause. And so then we go after that and we go after leaky gut and we do all of the leaky gut things and like don't feel or see success. And that's because like, it was just a symptom. It wasn't the villain in this situation. So once we kind of finally understand how the body's trying to communicate and how all of these things fit together, it becomes so much less overwhelming when you understand how the body works, and then you can't unsee it. And everything literally changes when you're like, oh, so you're saying like, that was actually just a symptom, and that was actually just a Band-Aid, and that was actually just a cover up to kind of get me. Is that when it comes to the body, the order of operations absolutely matters. So let's really dive in a little bit into this leaky gut conversation, because I think this will set the tone for the direction of where I want to take us today. So let's get really clear first. What is leaky gut? It's a very much a wellness world buzzword right now. And if we kind of take the buzzword out of it and actually start to think about what is happening in the body when we do experience leaky gut. Sometimes you will also see this called intestinal permeability. That is more of the professional jargon that we use to describe the same thing of leaky gut. So essentially, leaky gut is a non-clinical term, whereas increased intestinal permeability is more of the professional term. Know that I'm going to try to do as best I can, like with a diagram using my hands. Your small intestine, okay? Your small intestine sits right below your stomach. So all of the contents of your stomach empty into the small intestine. The small intestine's job is to then absorb said foods and nutrients and then dump any remaining food particles into the large intestine, which are then packaged for exit. Okay, so we're talking about the small intestine mostly, and the small intestine is right in between the stomach and the large intestine, okay? So the small intestine, it's only about the thickness of a paper towel. It's actually very thin, okay? It has a single layer of epithelial cells that then come together to form and extend into the gut and form what are called microvilli, okay? These are little finger-like projections that literally reach into the lumen of the gut to sample. They're just sampling like, ooh, what's in here? There's some nutrients, there's some amino acids, there's some glucose, maybe there's some bacteria that got through. So the small intestine's job is to reach in and sample. And then it opens up to allow the good guys through and closes up to keep the bad guys out. I realize that that is a very basic and oversimplification of what's going on, but that is exactly what is going on in the small intestine, okay? Now, what we have to recognize is that there are certain scenarios where that situation and that barrier system, it's working beautifully. It's keeping the bad guys out. It's letting the good guys in. Everything is working beautifully. There are also lots of situations where that can go awry, okay? So thinking about the leaky gut, thinking about these microvilli projections, these are held together by proteins called tight junctions in the gut. There's lots of different things that can actually break apart tight junctions, that can weaken the tight junctions, that can shrink the microvilli. So when we think about this leaky gut scenario, there's areas where this can start to go awry. And when we think about that, it's situations where these Velcro zippers are kind of coming apart. And now all of a sudden, it's kind of a free-for-all, right? The barrier has been breached and there's no longer a guard watching for what's going in, what's going out. Things are a little bit more of a free flow. So yes, nutrients can still go in, but so can bacteria, so can parasitic, so can viral particles. And now all of a sudden, if the small intestine let it through into the bloodstream, now the immune system gets involved and is like, hello, who are you? How did you get in here? Tag, tag, tag. And we wonder why we have autoimmune disease. We have mast cell activation. We have long COVID. We have all of these crazy immune responses, all these chronic immune conditions. And it's like, that's not happening by accident, right? There is an underlying state of leaky gut going on. So know that when there's chronic inflammation, when there's chronic stress, when there's bacterial or viral infections going on, these tight junction proteins, they get unzipped and they get damaged. And so those tight junctions loosen up, and now we just unzipped the gut barrier and we get all of these things through, some of them being called lipopolysaccharides. So they're abbreviated LPS. And these lipopolysaccharides are gram-negative bacteria that translocate then into the bloodstream, and we get partially digested food getting through, we get bile acids floating through, we get environmental toxins floating through. All of it's in circulation now, and it triggers an immune response. So that's where we start to get, the immune response coming in, and we get the symptoms then of those immune responses. You can feel brain fog, you can feel bloated, you can feel like you're breaking out, you can feel achy, anxious, you're itchy, you're exhausted, and you have all these like, oh, it must be food sensitivities, and we start to blame the food. It's like, no. This is not a food related problem. The food sensitivities are simply a symptom of a leaky gut, and the leaky gut is a symptom of stress and inflammation and oxidative stress in the system. So if this kind of sounds familiar, the part that nobody really explains is the body is just sounding an alarm right now. The body's not broken. It's actually doing exactly what it was designed to do. When the barrier gets breached, I absolutely want the immune system to get involved. We want that to happen. But then if that's happening chronically over time, weeks and months and years, that immune system that was defending you, it's going to quickly get overwhelmed. And then we start to get labeled into more of those like big and scary kind of labels, like different autoimmune patterns. And there's over 100 different autoimmune diseases now, right? So leaky gut is not a disease, and leaky gut is not even your root cause here. This is a physiological response to deeper imbalances that are going on. How does the gut become permeable in the first place? I kind of threw around some of these terms of like stress and inflammation, and that is true, but very vague and kind of unhelpful. So when you think about what actually makes the gut leaky, what sets off this whole cascade, usually it's some sort of breakdown in the north to south digestive process. And this is something I talk a lot about with my patients. I talk a lot about this with my mentorship programs where I train other practitioners. We have to understand that there is a proper north to south order of operations going on here. So number one, what could unzip the small intestine? What could unzip some of those tight junctions? Don't think it doesn't start in the brain. Chronic stress, trauma absolutely down regulates the overall vagal nerve. And the vagal nerve is what controls our parasympathetic rest and digest state. So that means that we have low stomach acid, we're going to have low bile flow, we're going to have poor motility. So of course there are physical ramifications to a body stuck in fight or flight. So it could be starting in the brain from things like emotional, mental stress, trauma. Definitely starts in the body if we have low stomach acid, if we have food that's arriving in the small intestine that's not even fully digested, and now we're fermenting food in the small intestine That's going to cause leaky gut. Maybe we have even downstream dysbiosis. We have a lot of bad guys roaming around in there. We have, parasitic overgrowths. We have yeast overgrowths. We have bacterial overgrowths. All of this inflammatory dysbiosis is absolutely going to produce what are called endotoxins. Remember when we talked about those lipopolysaccharides or those LPS? They absolutely are going to get then through the gut lining and into the bloodstream, and the immune system's going to have to get involved now, right? So it could be brain and stress and trauma, mental and emotional. It could be stomach and impairments in gut pH. It could be dysbiosis. It could be low immune system function, like we are losing that overall power of our secretory IgA, which is our first line of defense immune system. All of these potential things, and some people, it's not just one thing, it's a combination of many of these, to where now the gut lining gets unzipped. Now the gut lining is permeable and the immune system is involved. Okay. Once the immune system gets involved, this is where you start to see those like systemic diagnoses coming into play. And again, those are just descriptions of someone that's experiencing pretty advanced leaky gut because nobody has helped them actually get to the root cause of that leaky gut. Now this right here at this point, when we kind of like realize that there's probably a leaky gut going on, and we also start to think about like why that might have happened in the first place, this right here is where a lot of practitioners go haywire, okay? The system starts to fail us here because even very well-meaning practitioners kind of fall short when it comes to then knowing exactly what to do here, because you cannot heal and seal. You can't reform those tight junctions. It is possible to reform them, but you cannot reform them if the gut is inflamed. You cannot heal a leaky gut that is stagnant and motility is a concern. You cannot heal and seal a leaky gut that is under microbial attack and an immune system that is overwhelmed. You just can't do it. And what do I see happening time and time and time again? People are like, oh yeah, I think I have leaky gut, or I was told that I have leaky gut. Oh, what did you do for that? Oh, they did some food sensitivity testing. Oh my God, if you have leaky gut, don't do food sensitivity testing. That it's going to light up like a Christmas tree. Of course it's going to be lit up. It's not the food, it's the gut that is getting exposed to all these foods. So you could do a food sensitivity test, but it wouldn't surprise me if everything under the sun you're sensitive to. Not helpful, right? So, oh, they did some food sensitivity testing, or oh, I took some L-glutamine, or they put me on some zinc supplementation, or they put me on a colostrum powder, or I started drinking some bone broth. I'm like, cool. I mean, that's great, but like, meanwhile, your motility is paralyzed, your stomach acid sucks, your gut-brain connection is offline completely, and you have raging dysbiosis. I'm like, okay, like I wouldn't expect any of that to work, because it really reminds me of someone that would try to come in and put a roof on a house or put shingles on a house that's still on fire. What are we doing? Like, put out the fire before you try to re-shingle or rebuild a roof onto this house, or it's just going to burn up in flames as you're trying to rebuild it. That is no different than these leaky gut protocols out there that are just like, oh, supplements and some bone broth and some food sensitivity testing. I'm like, no, that ain't it, right? I'm like, you can definitely dabble down that path. You can take your time and investment there, give it a go. If it works for you, fantastic. I'm telling you, what I've seen is 9 times out of 10 that does not work, because your gut is still inflamed. You are not addressing the root cause of why your gut is leaky in the first place. And so it's literally just like, oh, I'm going to come in and I'm going to spackle this hole in the wall, and then I'm going to punch it open, and then tomorrow I'll come and spackle it again, and then I'll punch it open, and then I'll spackle it. What are we doing, right? We're literally spinning our wheels. So we have to understand that the gut, this is an ecosystem, people. This is not a patch job. Okay. We can't just come in and pretend that like this living, breathing ecosystem that houses 70 to 80% of our immune system lives here. 500 to 1,000 different species of microbiome, of microbes live in our gut. We have hormone receptors. We have detox enzymes. It's where we create neurotransmitters. And if we have this leaky gut barrier, and like we're not going to be able to make much progress with that, right? So we can't just come in and act like we're going to seal a gut when the gut is still on fire. We have to restore function and we have to restore physiology from the foundation up. So yes, we're going to be talking about the nervous system. Yeah, absolutely. That's got to be part of our treatment. Do we need to be addressing chronic stagnation? Yeah. If you have poor bile flow, poor motility, your lymphatic system is stuck in place, we got to address that. What about your overall digestion and your overall stomach acidity? What about your overall immune system function? And have to be addressed first and foremost, because otherwise I'm not bringing in any leaky gut treatment until we understand what the causes of that leaky gut are and we've addressed those thoroughly. That has to be the mindset and that has to be the plan. So if you feel like you've kind of been sold leaky gut as like your root cause and this whole picture, I totally get it. It can be very attractive to kind of go there, but you did the best with the information you had. But now, again, you can do better. Now you can kind of see like, oh my gosh, this is where everything shifts. Nobody helped explain to me that like leaky gut was actually just a symptom. And this whole time I'm out here spinning my wheels trying to figure out why some of these protocols aren't working. And it's like, well, yeah, that's because we haven't addressed like at the source what is making your gut leaky. Just plugging in my phone here so I make sure it doesn't die. So you're, like I said, you're not broken. It's not because you didn't protocol hard enough. It's because you've been like just kind of silencing the alarm the whole time, but not actually answering the alarm, that the reason why it was going off in the first place. This is exactly why I created my Renew Your Gut program, because I felt so strongly about people needing a completely different style of medicine than exists today. Conventional medicine, it's incomplete. It's got room for stuff to be desired. Same thing, honestly, with functional medicine. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not me. I don't ascribe to that traditional functional medicine platform that just pumps out 5R protocols for people and supplement protocols without really truly understanding where is the landscape and the entire terrain collapsing right now, because people are just getting overwhelmed and chasing symptoms. I'm about restoring overall function. And that's where it starts to get so much less overwhelming and so much greater return on investment, which is awesome. So if you've been, like I said, struggling with any of these more conventional diagnoses, more of these chronic autoimmune kind of diagnoses, it's right to look at the gut. But don't get sold some short-sighted solution that just wants to come in with this search and destroy mission and just start killing stuff off, or come in with this like leaky gut, heal and seal, before we actually can understand what is making the gut, what has progressed the gut to this place in the first place. That's what it's all about, and that's why we're different here. So if you're curious about my Renew Your Gut program, head to the link in my profile. It'll take you to my website where you can register. We'll get you some functional GI map testing ordered. We'll have lots of opportunity to work one-on-one together and feel actually supported in understanding what that gut restoration journey should look like from the ground up. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Share it with a family, share it with friends that you feel like could benefit from it, and we'll see you guys next week for more Learn with Lo.